girls. Welcome back to the Savage Daughter podcast. My name is Heather, and I am so excited to be here recording again. I was going through a lot recently in the last couple months that kind of left me feeling very overwhelmed and a little overstimulated. So I kind of cut back my load a little bit where I could to be able to make my family a priority. I had, court going on for Kaylin. I had filed for full custody, and I had that going on. Saoirse was having some mental health issues. I had a couple job interviews because I'm probably going to be going back into the food industry. A lot of financial struggles, just, life. It seems like when it rains, it pours, and that has been what it has been for me. But I am trying to take control of what I felt like I was starting to spiral a little bit. Not necessarily like depression or anything like that wise, just kind of spiraling. Like I felt like my life was getting a little out of control, which could lead to my depression or extra anxiety. So I decided to jump back in this energy, in this space, and get recording again. And I am so happy to be here. Today, we're going to be talking about owning both masculine and feminine energy, a little bit about wounded feminine energy, secure feminine energy, and how to embrace the energy that we are in based on the chapter of life or the era that we are currently in. Sometimes, somebody has by default more masculine energy or more feminine energy, and when they hit an era or a chapter of life where they are kind of more in the opposite from what their default is, and it can get a little overwhelming and it can lead you to feel certain ways. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that, as well as just learning how to embrace the energy and how they are both very helpful during different chapters that we're in. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about today will be, throughout the year, probably the rest of the year, we'll talk a little bit more about in depth. So today's kind of overall a general view on how to embrace both masculine and feminine energies. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. So we were walking through the store the other day, and I heard a grandma telling her grandson, "Don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about." And then later on through the store, I heard her saying, "Boys don't cry, you need to toughen up. Don't be a baby. Don't be a little girl." And it was very frustrating for me. And I don't know if it's because I'm a millennial or it triggered part of my own, hurt inner child. I don't know where it came from, but it was very frustrating to hear that little boy crying and not seeing his feelings being validated. As a mom, I know I'm not perfect and I could definitely work on it, but it's been my intention so much, especially as of late, to make sure that my kids feel like their voice is heard and that they have a safe space to be able to feel those feelings and not be shut down in that way, especially Aiden. He's in a house, he's got 3 sisters, he's got mom, he's surrounded by feminine energy, and I want him to feel secure in it. And it kind of got me thinking about, my own childhood and, the childhoods of so many others. That's stuff that we all grew up hearing. And I know that it's not often meant in a malicious way. It's just something that we've kind of heard about, and we say it in the heat of the moment when we're frustrated, but it can be so damaging to a child's psyche on, how they cope and how they embrace that energy that they're feeling based on, especially if they're a boy, that feminine, they kind of steer away from it. I'm not a girl, I can't do that. It reminded me a month or two ago, me and my little sister were talking about, us and our brothers and how we show up a little bit more for our feelings. And ironically, we're the ones that have, public mental health issues, and we're very passionate about that subject. And, not saying that my brothers don't also have it. They just don't, we grew up in a way that they didn't feel as safe to be able to express their feelings like we do. And mom always kind of would make a joke and, be like, it's because you're girls. And we kind of got away with it a little bit more than the boys did, just simply because we were girls. And, now that I'm a mom to a boy too, it breaks my mom heart to think that, even still, there's still that stigma around that boys need to be tough and can't show their feminine energy without them being portrayed as girly or, later in life, gay or whatever. everybody has both masculine and feminine energy, and it's just learning about how to show up for both when both are, when they're needed, I guess, so to speak. I'm a firm believer that there needs to be a balance with both feminine and masculine energy. And I don't necessarily think that it's a 50-50 balance. I think it's basically you showing up in your authentic self, and whatever that balance is, it could be 70% masculine or 60% masculine, and then the balance, being the feminine. It's just kind of showing up in your authentic self. And the more you do it, you're going to realize the more what kind of energy you have. It's very important, though, that you do be honest with yourself and show up for your emotions as needed. You ever see those girls on social media that post all these cute selfies and they kind of give a bad bitch type vibe? I always kind of chuckle, and you can always tell because that they just kind of went through some kind of heartbreak, whether it be breakup, divorce, whatever it is. Like when I see those selfies and there's like this badass quote and there's like, all this energy behind it, and there's people liking it and people commenting on it, and it's often girls hyping up that girl. It's that energy that's behind it. I have done this before, and I was actually just thinking about it now that I'm a little bit more in my feminine side, like what the difference is. I had a lot more post engagements when I was posting those selfies, and it just doesn't feel like that's where I am in life anymore. And I kind of got thinking about the energy behind it, which kind of is what fueled this episode, so to speak. I seen somebody posting all these really like empowering, I'm a badass type selfies with quotes and stuff. And I found out, after like 2 weeks of that she was going through a divorce. And I was like, okay, there she is, and I think that that's our masculine energy. When we think about masculinity or, energy, we think of safety. And I think that that is what fuels that energy is, that feeling of safety. Like, I don't need anybody. I can take care of myself. It's that protector in us. And I would say I was probably 2017-ish when I went through this phase. And honestly, it was probably my most mentally healthy era that I was in. And I think it was because I was so vigilant about protecting my own energy and my own mental health. Like, I was keeping myself safe. I was respecting the boundaries that I had set for myself. And I was finally showing up for that masculine energy that was trying to protect me from getting hurt. I guess I would say it was a coping. It wasn't necessarily who I was in that moment. Like, my more feminine side wanted somebody to take me for who I seen myself, to seeing the value that I knew that I was. And, at the time I wasn't getting it, not necessarily from Adam, just to clear the air. It wasn't about him. It was, somebody else I kind of was seeing on the side, and just kind of made me feel like I wasn't good enough. And that's when that masculine energy came out. And then fast forward to 2019, and I met Alex, and he put me more in my feminine energy. And it was something that I hadn't really been familiar with. I kind of grew up a little bit more masculine. I was a tomboy. I had a lot of brothers. I helped my dad with his landscaping business. Like, even though I was in a little Amish dress and a bonnet, like, I still was, mowing grass and doing all these things, hunting, fishing, doing all the things that all the boys did. I helped take care of my siblings, and then I grew up and, I got a job, and I felt like I was taking care of, the finances more so. My job field tends to make a little bit more money, especially the higher up in management you go. So I always had that, I provide, I take care, I take, and I give, and I barely receive anything. A lot of masculine energy. And Alex came into the relationship bringing the same qualities that I brought. And eventually somebody would have to win. And his energy definitely won. I have been put in my feminine energy, in not saying that, my other partners haven't been able to make me feel feminine or anything like that. That's not the case. But there's something about Alex's energy with mine that there's definitely that security. Like, he takes care of not only me, but Adam and the kids. And, we all pull our weight, but there's just, again, the energy behind it. So yeah, once I started noticing that I was experiencing a lot more feminine energy, I started feeling like I was weak, that I was, not independent enough. And I felt like I had to go above and beyond to prove that I didn't need Alex, that I didn't need anybody, that I could do all the things I did before, even though, I'm a princess now. And everybody kind of jokes, even my best friend jokes around now about the amount of princess I am. And like for a while, I actually kind of was offended by that. And I'm very hard to offend. And I was like, I think it's because it's triggering me, because I do feel like a princess. Like I do feel like, for once I'm in my feminine energy and, I'm being cared for. And, it opened it up where, then Adam started making me feel in my feminine energy and the kids. And it was just like, I, decided to step down from the food industry and take a break from that, and like just receiving help and from genuine people that really just wanted the best for me because they love me, like even friendships, romantically, the family, the whole 9 yards. And I didn't know how to accept it. Like, and I still don't. This is something that I think it's going to take me for a really long time to learn how to embrace that side of me. It's definitely been a journey. And, I was thinking about why it's so hard for me to accept, that part of me, that feminine energy. And I was thinking about, being wounded and insecure, and, the protector in me is kind of waiting to be needed again. And now that I'm embracing being vulnerable more and letting my femininity take over, I feel like I'm kind of going through an identity crisis, I guess. I feel like if I'm not this hard badass, then like, who am I? And I think it started about a year ago when I was going through that breakup with my last partner, and I kind of lost myself a little bit in the titles that I wore. And then when I quit my job and I broke up with him and I like really started digging into it, like I felt lost without those titles. Like, who even am I? I would love to say that I learned a lot about myself in that year, and I really haven't. I kind of got stuck in that mindset of like, I don't even know. I don't know what frame it was, but it wasn't a growth mindset. I was just kind of okay with being where I was until I wasn't. And then I felt like it was really hard to dig myself out of. And that's where I'm currently at, like digging deep, doing the work, putting in the work as to why this is so hard for me. I think that the wounded feminine energy, the nurturing side of us, the deep, the emotions, everything you think when you think of feminine energy, I think that often gets wounded in our childhood. Like we feel like our feelings or our voice doesn't matter. Like I was talking about that little boy earlier, and just little boys in general, growing up with hearing that sort of thing, like it can seem harmless in the time, but the amount of pressure that it puts on a future them with, feeling the feelings and how they manage them and communicate them is everything. And I definitely think that is, I know that there's traumas in our grown life that can happen that can wound that energy. But I think a lot of it stems from being children. And if it's, from a partner or whatever, there's that saying, hurt people hurt people. And I feel like that is very applicable here, because that is exactly what's happening. We hear it when we're kids, and then we grow up with that mindset, and, you don't realize how it affects you until it does. I know I've said that already once, but it's just, you just don't know until you know? So yeah, that wounded energy, it can, affect so much of our daily lives and how we react and how we cope with, different things. And, I know I'm nowhere near where I would like to be energy wise. I'm learning a lot more about my feminine and my masculine and how to show up, in that secure phase, whether it be in my feminine or masculine, and learning to embrace it. To me, the secure energy looks a lot like being present in the moment and being flexible, enjoying pleasure and connecting with others, through your words and your emotions, and just being authentic in ourselves. Feminine energy to me is a lot of healing and nurturing, and still a little protective. I know I said that I feel like the protective side of us is a little bit masculine, but if you think about feminine and just, like a mom with a kid, they're super, super protective too. And I think it's just the whole nurturing thing that separates that masculine and that feminine. So as I said, later this year, I do plan to dig a little bit deeper into, wounded and secure feminine energy. And I definitely would like to do some more research and a little bit more self-practice and learning as I go before I talk about it. I don't like to talk about something without personal experience behind it, because then it's just going to be facts. There's not going to be any kind of real emotion or, I just kind of want to dig a little bit deeper, but I do plan to talk on that later this year before the year's up. So I was thinking about both of that and, okay, say your default is masculine energy and you want to learn how to rise your vibration, so to speak, to embrace that more feminine that's trying to show up, that healing side of you, and how do you change that and show up for that balance that works for you. And I talked about it previously, and I'll probably talk about it again, but I'm truly a big believer that, hobbies are a solid start to showing up for who we are. I think that, if something fuels a fire within you, you need to follow it. Because like I said, you get lost in your titles and stuff. It's kind of hard to know where you are. And I think it's very important that we take time for ourselves. And, not necessarily take time, but you almost have to make time, especially if you're, you carry a bunch of weight from other titles, say you're, a boss at your job or a mom or a dad, whatever it may be, you need to make that time for yourself regularly. Come up with some kind of a routine to be able to express that creative side of you, or, whatever brings you pleasure. I also am a firm believer that, exercise rises your vibration. Any movement is better than none, whether it be a walk, anything that releases that serotonin or those endorphins and brings out all that happy vibration, because the universe can work with happy and grateful. And I know for me anyway, after a workout, it's very rarely that I feel worse after a workout. So it's really good for our mental health as well as, our physical, obviously, to be able to help our, our whole being, both mentally, physically and spiritually, all of it. Meditation, personal development, journaling, therapy, etc. It's all ways to rise to your truest self and to show up for yourself. And I know that it seems like a lot, and maybe it doesn't work for you. You just kind of got to play with it and figure out what's the best routine for you to be able to feel like your best self. And you just got to keep rinsing and repeating the same cycle over and over and over. And that's going to eventually rise your vibration to feel secure in whatever energy is your dominant. And know that it's okay, depending on the chapter and the era of life that you're in, to let the other that's not default take over. And it's not exclusive to who you are. Like, it can be interchangeable or whatever, and I do think that it's very important to honor where you're at. It's okay to have whatever energy it is. It's okay for men to express their feelings more. And I truly believe that while we have made a lot of progress in that department, that there's still a lot of stigma on men and showing their emotions and being okay with embracing their feminine sides without, making jokes or sly comments like they might be gay or something like that. Like, that's not okay. And I think that we definitely have some work, some major work that we could do there. I think that it's very important that we teach our kids to identify what they're feeling when they're feeling it, instead of telling them. I noticed that a lot of people will be like, you're not sad, or, you're not hurt, or basically stop feeling the way that you're feeling because it's not true, or you're just upset. And I think it's very important that we teach our kids to be able to express. I don't think that we should tell them to suck it up. I think we need to allow those little things to be felt and to tell them that it's okay. I don't think we should suffocate their voice. And I know that is never anybody's intention to make their kids feel like they're not heard. But I think it's so easy to do that you have to make a mindful decision every single day to make sure that you're paying attention, being present in that moment, and hearing what they say. And even what they don't say, but what's going on when they start acting the way they do, or, start showing those feelings. I think it's very important too that we stop telling little boys that they can't feel, or that, they can't, let their feminine come out more. I must say, though, that being a mom now and realizing these things and seeing these things, it's definitely hard. It's probably the biggest challenge I've ever had. Making sure that my kids feel like their voices are being heard and that they're not feeling suffocated. And there's been times that I felt like really proud of myself that I did certain things. For example, the other night, Saoirse was trying to play around, and I played around with her for probably 15, 20 minutes, and then I was getting tired, and I wanted her to stop. I asked her to stop like 4 times, and she just kept going, and I kind of got snippy, and I was in the middle of texting again, and I seen her face, and I just knew right then and there that she felt like my phone was more important to me than she was. And it wasn't that. It was just how she perceived it in her 9-year-old brain. And I put my phone down and I was like, Saoirse, I'm sorry. I know that probably made you feel like my phone was more important. I'm sorry. Can you come here and I'll cuddle you? And then, we'll stop tickling and stop playing and we'll start settling down for the night. But is it okay if I just hold you? And she started crying and she's like, thank you for saying that. And, it broke my heart, but yeah, it made me really happy that I was able to be present enough to notice that she felt some sort of way and that it was okay to apologize to her. That was my feminine energy coming out that wanted to protect her from feeling hurt or silenced or, dismissed, like she wasn't anything. And I think that when we can do stuff like that, that is where it ends that generational trauma and it stops here. And obviously, I know that one instance isn't going to just end our whole family lineage of just trauma. It's going to take a lot of work and dedication, but I feel like it was a major step in the right direction on ending that generational trauma because now I'm making that conscious decision to pay attention to the unspoken feelings and to be more mindful of how my actions affect her and Aiden and everyone else too. I say it every day, but Saoirse's probably going to be, she's either going to be the death of me or the one that heals me the most. I haven't decided yet, but I'm definitely thinking it's going to be the later. Just feeling that gratitude from your kids when you show up for them and let them feel like their voice is heard. I've had a few of those this week and it's definitely a high like no other. Anyways, that is about it for today. Like I said, I'm going to go into that a little bit more as time goes on. I'm sure I'll have other episodes that it's mentioned in as well as I learn more about it. But that's kind of where I'm at right now mentally and emotionally and just kind of where my heart's been and what I've been focused on in my own personal life. So if you like this episode, please rate, share, subscribe. You know the drill. Tag me on any social media. All my links are in the bio through my link tree. The main ones are my YouTube, The Savage Daughter Co. Facebook is Heather McGarity with the Facebook community group of The Savage Daughter Podcast. And then my TikTok is HMcGarity1. The music in this episode is through Ian Mark. You can go give him a follow on Spotify at Hi, I'm Ian, all lowercase, no spaces, for some pretty dope music. And that's it for today. So until next time, peace out, homies.